So right now, today, we're gonna be having a new guest. I haven't done one of these in quite some time, so I'm definitely gotta freshen up on my interviewing skills. I'm waiting for a phone call right now. Hopefully, I got set everything up correctly, and if I did, then we should be having the phone ringing right now, and we'll be doing our first interview in quite some time. Hopefully, he calls the right number. So a few days ago, what is it? Today's Sunday. So on Friday we had Jesse and David on, and David had mentioned that he knew somebody that he believed was innocent. So I told him, hey, let's bring him on and see what he's talking about. And so I had like a conversation with him yesterday, and there he is. He's calling in right now. All right, let's pick it up.
This call is now being recorded.
Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Derrick Snowden.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, Derrick. So I want to go ahead and thank you for calling in and being willing to share your journey with us. This is going to be your first call to You Have a Collect Call From. We're currently streaming on YouTube and on TikTok. How are you doing today, Derrick?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself?
Yeah, I can't complain. It's Sunday. I don't have to work, so anytime that's happening, it's a good day for me.
Good deal.
All right. So, can you go ahead and share a little something about yourself, who you are, where you're at, or anything that you want the audience to know about you before we get into your journey?
Well, sure. Okay. Well, like you said, my name is Derrick Charles Snowden. I'm a surfer from Cerritos, California. It's about 15 minutes from Seal Beach and Sunset Beach in Southern California. I've been in jail for about 20 years for a crime that I didn't commit. And with the kind of sentence that I have, there was really no chance of me getting out. The laws are changing. And so, if I can't get out on my innocence, there's a possibility that maybe I can get out a different way. But other than that, I'm just another guy sitting in jail for a crime that he didn't commit. I don't really know what else to say about that.
Man, and that's that's not something that you come across every day. Somebody, because everybody that I've brought on that on this YouTube channel and TikTok channel, they've admitted to what the acts they have committed. So you would be the first person that I bring on that claims that they're innocent. So this is something new for me and for the audience.
Oh, okay.
So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing out exactly what happened. And I did have some time yesterday. I kind of briefly went over some of the like 2 news articles and some of your court transcripts. And from reading them, I have like so many questions that I want to ask you in regards to your case, but I'm gonna go ahead and hold off on that.
Yeah.
And I want to go ahead and start off, with your earliest childhood as a child. What like whether it's good or bad. What do you remember as a kid? What's your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a great childhood. My father was a sheriff. My mom was an executive at an aerospace company. I grew up in a gated community. I never wanted for anything. By all accounts, you would say that I should have had a perfect life. But, being a spoiled kid, I got in trouble as a kid. I did dumb stuff, And, other than that, I really don't know. I mean, like I said, I had a really good childhood. You'd have to try to pull it out of me because I don't really know what to tell you other than that. I nothing. I mean, I didn't have an abusive father or mother or anything like that. I had great parents. Just me and my little sister, and hey.
You know what?
That's pretty much it. I don't know why.
When you say Cerritos, man, I'm thinking, I've been to Cerritos just passing on by, and you see like nice areas, nice homes, car dealerships. When you're driving down the 605, it's a well kept area. So somebody like me walking there, I would stand out like a sore thumb. Um,
Yeah.
I can't recall of anybody, coming, on our channel that
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
that comes with from a pretty well-off area. You mentioned that your father was a sheriff's officer. What kind of job did your mom have?
She works as an executive for a place called Aerospace. I mean, Arrowhead Space Products. She's retired now, but she worked there for, I don't know, X amount of years, and then retired. And my father retired from being a deputy sheriff. They're older. So that's what she did, and that's what he did. So, like money was never a problem. Like I said, I had a great childhood. So there's really nothing there other than just good things, really.
And in the childhood, in your household, did you have any brothers or sisters or any other family members besides your mom and dad living there?
Yeah, just my little sister. Yeah, she's 10 years younger than me, and that was it. Just her and I grew up at home. And I left. I was just gonna say I left at 18 and moved to Vegas. And actually, I think about 20 and moved to Vegas. I'd already left home, but I moved to Vegas, and I was living in Las Vegas for years until I came home in I think 89 or 98, 98, excuse me. And then just started living in California again.
So, so you and your sister, you guys had a pretty huge, age gap. When you were like 10 years old, she was probably barely born. So did you guys, what kind of relationship?
Exactly.
What kind of relationship did you guys have, growing up, since there was such a huge, gap in age?
Well, I'll tell you, because we're 10 years apart, for like the first 3 or 4 years of her life, she was like my baby sister, of course, and you're going to hold her and carry her and be with her everywhere. And then as she got older, she just, she's still my baby sister, obviously, but she grew up and she's, started to branch out and do her own things. We didn't run in the same type of circles as we got older, of course, and so, most of my friends were like surfers, skaters, and stuff like that, and hers weren't, I don't really know the kind of people she hung out with because like I say, we're 10 years apart. By the time she was hanging out with anybody significant, I was already out of the house and gone. So, but we had a pretty great relationship. We weren't super close or anything like that, because like I say, we live in a big house. She's got her own room. I got my own room, and we're 10 years apart, and and I like I said, I tended to want to be out and with my friends all the time. So I was at home a lot. So I would see her when I'd see her, and and that was it. And by the time she was 10, I was gone. So I mean. I don't really know what else to say too much about that. That's pretty much that.
So let me ask you. So when you're about like 14 and 15, what kind of activities were you doing? When you were not in school?
Surfing mostly. I'm like 15, 20 minutes from Seal and Sunset Beach. So I'm at the beach most of the time. And when I'm not at the beach, I'm skating with my friends, skateboarding, all through town. That's pretty much it. I wasn't really into sports. I played I played regional ball and basketball and stuff like that, but that wasn't really my thing. I preferred the water. I wish we lived closer to it, but we did. We lived like 15, 20 minutes away from it, but that was fine for me. I could get there no problem. and that's pretty much what I was into.
You know what? Right now, when you mentioned that you surf, man, the first thing that popped into my head was the movie Rad. You know, the BMX movie, and then I got a
Esta
flash of
llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
then I got a flash of Point Break. You know, because they're surfing and
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably what comes to most people's minds that are our age, so or older, I should say. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Yeah.
yeah, that was like during
I
that
had
time.
all those videos.
Yeah, those were
I
like.
had all those videos. I used to watch them. That's another thing I used to do a lot. I used to watch a lot of surf videos, and then any little cheesy little movie that would come out like Rad or stuff like that. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, when I was at home, I was watching MTV and watching videos and hanging out and talking to my friends on the phone and stuff like that. I mean, but that was pretty much my childhood, bro. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And so as far as like school, like how were you doing academically in school? During like middle school or junior high and high school.
I've never failed a class, and I mean, I wasn't a straight A student or anything like that. I got B's and C's, and got the occasional A's and stuff like that. But I never really got heavy into studies. I mean, I went to college obviously later on in life, but that wasn't really my thing. I was too busy trying to just be me and be a kid, and enjoying that, thinking that it would last forever, and wasn't really worried about what am I going to do when I'm 18 and what school am I going to go to. That wasn't really anything I wasn't really too worried about that. I didn't mention the fact that my family also owned a couple businesses. My dad owned a Burger King in Upland, and we also owned a United Charter Coach tour company, which was like about 6 or 7 buses, that charter buses that would leave from LA and go to Vegas for turnarounds for weekends. And my dad had deals with the hotels down there, and he would take these people there, set them up, and then turn around and drive them back. And so like I said, I was a naive kid. I just, I didn't really know the value of a dollar. I guess I thought money grew on trees, because, I had it. So, we weren't rich or anything, but I everything I asked for, I got, and I wasn't a needy kid. I was just, just out there, but, that's that.
And man, so that's interesting that your parents, they were doing pretty good. I would say that they were living that California dream, that a lot of people dream about, being, they were in a good area. You guys were really close to the beach. Whenever you guys wanted to run down to the beach, you had that option. As a kid, did you ever get in trouble in school or with the police or anything like that?
You know what? It's funny you should mention that, because I always got in trouble at school, but it wasn't. I don't really remember doing anything significant. It was more like class clown type stuff. Like you're always in the principal's office, or it wasn't like I'd go to school. It wasn't like I was ditching or anything like that. I'd show up for class because I loved school, but it was just hanging out with my friends that I really loved, and the classes were just part of that. So, but like I said, I never failed a class. I've never failed a grade. I've always passed everything. But yeah, I used to get in trouble a lot. I can't really put my finger on it. Like I said, I think I just felt like I was like the smartest kid in the room or something type. And I just thought I was hilarious, and other people, may have found me funny or not. I can't recall really. But yeah, it seems like every school I ever went to, I get kicked out, and so I must have gone to like, I went to Catholic school all the way until Our Lady of Fatima was like, no, we can't do this anymore. And I went to Our Lady of Fatima in Artesia, which is down the street from Cerritos, and then I just started going to public schools after that, and because my family in Vegas, they also come from a really good family background, and every single family member of mine has graduated from Gorman High School, which is like one of the most prestigious high schools in Vegas. And so they've all went to Gorman. They also from the school prior to the Gorman, which is like St. Anne's, to Gorman High School. So if anybody knows anything about high school ball and stuff, Gorman is like huge. And so they're all graduated from Gorman. So everybody else has gone on to private schools, as well. So that's why I went to Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima, which is another Catholic school here in California, because I wasn't in Vegas with my other cousins. And I don't know. I don't really think I fit with the nuns, And so they booted me out like second or third grade, and then I started going to public schools, and I was like, jazzed. I was like, cool, no more uniforms and same people, I could skate to school, and you know what I mean. Things were cool, but I don't really recall. Like I said, I don't. I mean, just dumb little things, and I'd get kicked out, and the next thing I'd know, I'd be at another school, and I know it was totally me. Obviously, I mean, you don't get kicked out for just being cool. So obviously, I was doing something. But yeah, so I did have a lot of problems as a kid going to school, and to the point where I finally, in high school, towards the end, my parents were like, just screw it, we're just gonna homeschool you. So I had a homeschool teacher he'd come I think every morning from 8 to 10, and then he'd leave, and then the rest of the day was mine. I'd just wait for my friends to get out of school to get it cracking, and do what have you. You know what I mean?
You know what? So when I was going over I'm not sure if it was like one of the LA Times articles or the court transcripts. It mentioned that you were living in your garage, and that you weren't allowed to enter your house.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
Was that a accurate statement that wasn't in that paperwork?
Okay, can you say that again? Because I didn't hear it. It cut off on me.
So on the court paperwork, or one of the newspapers, it mentioned that at a certain point in your life, you weren't able to enter your house, that you were living inside the garage for whatever reason.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Let me ask you something. Didn't it just say about I have 60 seconds left on this call?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and call back, and then we'll go ahead and start off on a fresh call.
Let me hang up and call you right back.
Okay. All right. Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to go ahead and give a shout out. Let me see. We got Frisco. Saludos. Hey, gracias. We got Julie. Let me see. Who else do we have on here? We got El Iceman. We got Righteous Monkey. Let me see who else. So I'm not ignoring anybody. It's just I'm trying to focus on the conversation that I'm currently having with Derrick Snowden, and normally I don't read any of these court paperwork or any of the news articles, but in this case, when it was presented to me, I felt that it was my duty, go ahead and read up on some of this information. I didn't sit there and read it for hours. I took maybe about 30 minutes, and I kind of like glossed over it and saw some things that kind of stood out to me on whether it was the court paperwork or on the court or the news articles, because I did find maybe about 3 or 4 different news articles, and I actually added them. If you're on YouTube, all that information you're gonna find on the description of the video. If you want to go through it, you could just type in his name on Google, and it'll be like the first 3 things that'll come up when you search his name. So I definitely wanted to be ready. Normally on these other interviews, when I do come on, I just normally just shoot from the hip and and let it take us wherever it goes. And so this one's just a little bit different. I felt that it was my duty to at least freshen up on what exactly some of the events that transpired were.
This call is now being recorded.
Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Derrick Snowden.
un individuo encarcelado de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel-Link.
Hello.
Okay, so where were we at? We were at me living in the garage at one point in my life, right?
Yeah, and what what age was this that you were living in the garage?
Okay, that was when I was 19.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't leave home until I was 20. That was when I was 19, and my father had just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was she was just distraught. She lost her husband. And it's me and my sister, and money wasn't a problem, but what was a problem was the fact that she's got this teenage boy that hasn't grown up yet, that's still living at home, and just she still has to go to work every day, and my sister's still in school. So what do I do with this kid? I come home and he's got people over here. She's like, look, when I'm not home, you're not home. So, and I, like I said, I live in a gated community, so the house is pretty big. It's a 3-car garage with this, I don't know if you call it a bonus room or an alcove room, and it was like a weight room initially, along with my drum set in it. And then when my mom kicked me out of the house, so to speak, because it's pretty much calling me kicked me out of the house because she took my key. I set up my bedroom in that room. I put my drums up above in the rafters in the garage and just turned that into my bedroom. So just used the remote control for one of the garage doors as my key to get in and out of the house. And living in the gated community, I knew all the guards, so I didn't have to worry about that. I come and go, and I didn't have to worry about them not letting me in, and then knowing the gate combos to the walk-in gates. You just press them and you come on in. So that was it, So for a couple, I don't know, maybe 18 months, almost 2 years before I left for Vegas, that's where I was living in the garage, And while my mom was, trying to work through the pain of losing her husband of X amount of years, and trying to raise a teenage daughter,
And let me ask you something.
Well, she wasn't a teenager yet, but she was 10. But go ahead.
How would you describe the relationships with your mom and your dad?
Okay, well, my dad was really, I don't know how to say it. He was a disciplinary type of father, but only when he needed to be. You know what I mean? He was fun-loving. He was, outgoing. We had a speedboat on the side of the house. We'd go to Paris Lake. We'd go to Tahoe, Lake Elsinore. Water skiing, and what I mean. That's probably where I got my first level water. Like 6 or 7. Where I'm out there, learning how to ski and stuff. So he was a great dad, and he never really said I love you, but I think it's because of the one time. If I put my finger on it, the turning point in my father and I's relationship from being a kid to getting into an adolescent was the one time I remember him dropping me off at school at Our Lady of Fatima, which is when I was in primary school, and dropping me off at school, and he was telling me, he was like, look, before he let me out of the car, he said, Derrick, I just want to tell you something. He said, whatever you do, don't ever lie to me, because I can't protect you if you lie to me. You tell me the truth, and I promise you we'll work it out. I don't care what you do with other people. I'd appreciate you if you tell them the truth too, but you have to tell me the truth. Because if you lie to me, Derrick, then I'm going to go completely bonkers for you, all the way to bat for you, no matter what, because I'm believing you. And if I find out you lied, then what am I going to do? I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what else, I don't know.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I remember that conversation very vividly, and lo and behold, I don't know how much longer it was away from there, I did lie to him about something with the nuns at school, and they wanted to suspend me, and I lied to him. So he went in there and, he went all the way to bat for me, got them to back down on their position. I was back at school, and then come to find out that he found out that I was lying. Now, I think that was like the turning point in our relationship. Now, I know I was young, but once again, like I said, he was a sheriff. You know what I mean? He was a great man. Everything he touched turned to gold. So you know what I mean. And I never wanted for anything. I had a great childhood. He even had a great childhood when he was a kid. He was like one of the only kids in his house in school driving a Corvette when he was in high school. So so he knew what he was saying. And I did the one thing that just I think shattered him, bro. And from then forward, we were father and son, but we weren't really close, bro. It was like I broke him or something, He was just my dad, I mean, I needed something, he'd take care of me, or like this, that, or the other. He had my back, but as far as trusting me was concerned, he was like, no, I don't. That's out, So.
Let me ask you something, because I hear, like, to me in my mind, I hear like my dad's a police officer or a sheriff or has some type of legal authority. Yeah. I'm thinking, man, like that could be it could benefit me in some way. Like if I'm out, committing, doing things I'm not supposed to be doing. Did your dad ever get you out of legal trouble? Being in the position that he was in.
Well, yes, but I don't. Yes, and I will call it legal trouble. There was a few times that I got in trouble, and I'd get picked up, and because my dad was a sheriff, they would call him, and he would just come and get me. I don't know whatever happened to the other kids that we got in trouble with. because that wasn't any of my business. But I went home with my dad. So yeah, so that happened a few times. But that's, as you get older, that wears out. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, there was a few times that my dad would they'd just call me, and I'd be like, if they didn't already know him, they'd find out who he was, and they'd be like, oh, it's a fellow officer. Call him and tell his dad to come get him. And that's what my dad would do. He'd just show up and pick me up. And, and then he wouldn't say nothing to me on the way home. And I know once again, I disappointed him, Like I said, I was spoiled, but not spoiled to where I guess there's no other way to look at it. I was spoiled, and I took full advantage of that. You know what I mean? I thought I could do the things that my other friends were doing, but it wasn't flying like that with my family. My family wasn't. They were cool, but they weren't that cool. Yeah. So my other friends could stay out as late as they wanted and stuff like that, and I'm like, and I want to do that too. But I didn't earn that responsibility. I mean, the trust from my family. I didn't have that. So they were like, no, I want you in at a certain time, and you're staying in. And I'm sneaking out of my bedroom window, climbing over the garage, down to the side gate, off the side gate, down to the side of the house, and then skating off. So So I don't know.
So earlier on I asked you about you living in your garage, and you mentioned that was between the ages of 19 and 20. Prior to that, when you were like 15, 16, 17, did you ever get into any type of legal trouble? Did you ever end up in juvenile hall, the juvenile hall system, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Let's start from the beginning with that. Okay, so the very first time I ever got arrested, me and my friends had broken into someone's house around the corner. Now, mind you, we're 13 years old. We're not going in there to steal anything. We're just dumb kids wanting to, knowing they're on vacation and going into their house. So we went into their house and just vandalized it. For what? I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't the brightest kid. So we went in there and vandalized their house for no apparent reason. And we got caught, and all...
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
All of us got like 3 days in juvenile hall. That was our sentence. So that was the first time that I ever experienced anything with the law where where I'm going to jail or I'm literally going to court for something. Okay, and then the next time, my father had just... Okay, let me see. I was in high school, and my dad was like, okay, look, you're going to be 16 next year. I'm gonna buy your car now, and I'm gonna start paying it off in your name to help you establish your credit. So let's go pick you out a car. So we went down to the dealership, and I got a brand new Z28. I got a brand new Camaro Z28. Everything, custom, got total, everything. My dad just took care of everything, and then we drove it home. And like I said, we have a 3-car garage, so it just sat in at the end of the garage in one of the spots, and it just sat there, and. My dad would occasionally drive it out. I'd wax it all the time, and it would just sit there. And so one day, this is during the time that I was homeschooled, so from 10 until, I don't want to say until when my parents got home, which was like 5 o'clock, but that's pretty much it. Till like 10 to 5, I'm on my own, because my sister, by that time, she was, I don't think she was at Fatima yet, but she was at some Catholic elementary school. She probably was at Fatima by then. Yeah, she was at Fatima by then, because we had the same babysitter. When I got older, she had the same babysitter I had when I was a kid. So, and that's right across the street from Fatima. So she didn't come home. She'd go from school across the street to the babysitters, which was on Tuesday, and I'm at home chilling, And one day, I was sitting in my dad's office in the house, and I opened his desk drawer, and bam, the keys in my car were sitting there. I was like, oh. So I picked him up, and I went outside, and I started it up, and, I'm listening to music, sitting in the car. And, I don't know how to drive. Well, I'm 15. My dad's taken me out a few times in his vet, to Cerritos College to drive around in the parking lot. But I don't really, I wouldn't consider myself a driver just yet. So, but I backed it out of the garage. And then when I backed it out of the garage, I couldn't get it back in because we have a circular garage. And I couldn't make the turn because it was, so I had to call a friend, and I'm like, bro, come help me, dude. I can't, for one, I don't even know how to get the keys out of the ignition, and for two, I can't get it back in the garage. So anyway, my friend comes over, and he shows me how to get the keys out of the ignition. You have to pull this lever down, and it turns in, pops out. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And then he's like, you want to put it back in the garage? I'm like, well, we got it out now. So anyway, I ended up driving it around in my track, but my track's got speed bumps in it, because like I said, it's a gated community. So leave my track and go to the track next door, and now I'm racing through Sunshine Park, which is the track next door. And I end up wrecking into somebody's house. I end up like driving down this long street in the track, and I'm doing like, I don't know, I'm going too fast. This is the middle of the day. Everybody's at work, everybody's at school, nobody's around. And I pull the handbrake trying to do like a 180 to turn around and go back the opposite way, and I only do like a 165 or something, and I hit this curb and I go up into somebody's dining room, you know, and all my friends take off, and I don't take off. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. It's my car. So I'm sitting there, you know, and the owners weren't there. Nobody was there, but someone in a neighbor across the street saw them. They came out. They asked me if I was okay, and I said I was. And then they said I called the police, and I said okay, cool. And when the police got there, I don't know where this came from, but it just came out of me. I just was like, no, it's not mine. My friend was driving me, and they were like, okay, well you give us your statement, and you can go home. So I go home. And when I go home, by the time I get home, the phone is ringing, and my dad is gotten the call at work, and he is on his way home. So I make up a whole lie about, you know, somebody breaking in and tying me up and taking the car, blah blah blah. And he's like, this is what I tell him over the phone, and he's like, no, knock it off. I'm on the way home, and I'm like, okay, he ain't going for that. So I book it, and so I take off, and I run away from home. I'm hiding for like, I don't know, you know, for my parents, and for like 3 or 4 days. And my dad, you know, he couldn't, you know, he had to tell the truth, obviously. So he said, what happened? So the law is also looking for me, you know, for joyriding and whatever other charges that they put on you for something like that. And so I ended up getting caught, and I ended up going to jail for that. So, you know, so that was my experience with the juvenile. And then from there on, I just, you know, I did a few things here and there, and the next thing you know, I'm going from placement to county camp to the youth authority. All together, I'm in and out of, you know, the juvenile system from like, I don't know, from 14, 15 to like 18, right? Yeah, that's 18, yeah. No, right before 18, because I came out and I finished high school. So yeah, so right before 18. So, and then like I said, after that I was done. You know, I mean, because I had gone to the youth authority, I was on parole, you know, because that's like juvenile prison. So once I got on youth authority, you know, I was still living with my parents. My dad was still alive. I lived with him, and everything is great. I never get in trouble again. Things are good. I'm back in school. I'm working at one of my dad's companies. I'm cool. I'm graduated high school. Everything's great. And then my dad passes away. Now that has nothing to do with the way my behavior changed, but things did change, and so I violated my parole before I turned 21, and so my parole officer, you know, picked me up, because I used to come to the track, and the guard would be like, your parole officer's here, and I'd be like, okay, cool, I got a couple minutes, you know, before they get to the house.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
Okay, I think it's going to hang up again. Do you want me to call you right back?
Yeah, if you can.
All right. Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely. I'll call you right back.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so let me see here. Hey, gracias, Raider Tommy, for giving me those likes. Also, Julie, I really appreciate those likes. Also, thank you, highly appreciate it. And this would be on the TikTok site. Like I said, I'm doing a simultaneous stream. I'm doing a stream on TikTok and on YouTube, so both sides could hear me. Let me see who else did anybody. So really appreciate it. You know, he said something right now that I find interesting. You know, he went to camp and YA, and I definitely do have some questions in regards to that, because that progressed really quickly there. And I'll ask him right now when he calls back in regards to, you know, his experience in the camp system and ultimately in YA.
This
call is now being recorded.
Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Derrick Snowden.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel Link.
Hello, Derrick.
James. So where were we? We were with me, violating parole as a youth offender. So I had violated parole, and my parole officer had picked me up, from my house, and he took me straight to youth authority, straight to I want to say YTS. I think it's somewhere in Chino, and just dropped me off. Now, mind you, I'm maybe 3 months away from my 21st birthday, and that's as long as they can hold you as a juvenile. And so basically, I finished my juvenile commitment in the youth authority. And while I was there, I found out that I wasn't a high school graduate like I thought I had graduated from high school was already, and because I had graduated when I was in the youth authority. And when I got home, I was assuming that I was graduate. I thought I had graduated. They told me I did, but they said I hadn't. So I said, cool, can I take the GED really quick? So I took the GED in YTS. Then I actually got my diploma there. And then from there, I did 3 months there. And then when I came out of YA at 21, after doing that 3 months before I turned 21 in YTS, I got out. And then I moved to Vegas, because that's where all of my mom's family members are. So I moved to Las Vegas. My family has an apartment complex out there, and it's like a triplex or whatever. And so they just gave me an apartment, and and that's where I kicked it, and I worked and went to school and this, that, and the other, and hung out in Vegas until like I said, until like 98, 99, and then I moved back to California. I got arrested for this crime in 2003, which happened in 1992. So,
okay.
Like I said, they did.
So,
they weren't even looking at that.
So before we get into that, you said a few things that piqued my interest. So I haven't mentioned this to you before, on our conversations out there, but as a juvenile, I went through the LA County probation department system, juvenile hall, central juvenile hall, Los Padrinos, CMR, and eventually, I ended up going into the camp system. Once I turned 18, I started going into the LA County jail system. But that's pretty much where it ended. Once I turned 20 once I turned 22, that was the last time I ever went in, and that was over 22 years ago. All right. So I say that to say this. So I remember being in camp, and there was this kid. He was from Catalina Island. I had no idea what Catalina Island was, but he didn't fit in. He was an outcast.
Yeah.
He was on psych meds.
Yeah.
And you coming from the area you came from Cerritos, and obviously it doesn't sound like you had any type of any gang involvement or any ties to gangs. What was your experience like? Going into these places, going into the juvenile hall system, going into camp, and then eventually going to YA. I never went to YA, but from what I hear, these stories online, it was a horrific place, and not having any gang ties. How did you fit into all of this? Starting from the hall system all the way into YA.
I think because I had a niche, and what I mean by that is, I wasn't like everybody else, but I wasn't like everybody else in a good way. So people would talk to me and they'd be like, "This dude is black, but he's not," and I'm like, "Well, no, I am black. You just don't think I am." So, so it's like I go there, and I'd have to fight a couple times, but I grew up a kid. I wasn't a punk, so it wasn't like I had no problem fighting if that happened to be the thing. The situation. So I go to these places, and I would just I don't this is a poor choice of words to say, because the cream of the crop in these situations, they tend to rise to the top, and I'm not trying to put myself out there or anything like that, but most of the kids in those kind of situations were not from where I was from, like you were saying, and so they didn't have all the benefits and the resources at their disposal like I did. So, so they didn't shine per se when it came to whatever jobs or whatever kind of programs were going on in there. And so I always ended up getting the good jobs or working working right alongside the medical or whatever the case would be, because or working and visiting, in the trusted positions. And like I said, I'm 6'3", so I'm not a little guy, and I've been tall my whole life, and so I just made it, bro. I see some of those kids that would come through there, and I'd see them get picked on, and you know what I mean, and I just didn't happen to me. I was fortunate, bro. I guess it had to be God, I guess. I mean, because I'm not special, I lost more fights than I won, but I got in very few fights. Maybe 3 fights in YA, and maybe 1 or 2 fights in juvenile hall, or maybe 1 fight in county camp. I didn't have to fight a lot, bro. I don't know. I got lucky.
And what act was it that got you committed to CYA? Because normally, like, I'm thinking CYA, it's like you would.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
You would like normally the people that I came across that went to YA, they were either committing acts like horrific acts of violence or it wasn't they weren't sending people that were doing petty theft or vandalism to YA. Exactly what was it that you did that got you to into the CYA system?
What got me into CYA system was me running the gamut with all of the probationary and different disciplinary factions that they could give a juvenile. I had run the table. I did the 3 days in juvenile hall first. The next time I went to Boys Republic placement. The next time I went to county camp. The next time was CYA. They were like, "Look, if you've done them all, we're not going to keep sending you back." So I escalated all the way to. And what got me into CYA was my neighbors across the street had went on vacation, directly across the street. If you were to back out of my driveway and just keep backing up, you would back up into their driveway. They had went on vacation, and when they went on vacation, I threw a party in their house. And so I had maybe 200 people from all over the neighborhood, and we're raking in their house for a week, throwing parties and driving their Porsches and and whatnot. And my neighbors next door to them, right next door to them on their side of the street, saw me going out of their house because they see people coming and going. But they were like, "I thought the Splits were on vacation," but they saw everybody coming and going. But they recognized me because I'm the only one that lived in the track, going right out of their house, walking across the street, and going into mine. And they were like, "This is not Derrick." And so they ended up calling the police. And then the party got broken up. All kind of people got in trouble and got arrested. And obviously they were like, "Well, Derrick's having a party here, so and I'll throw back on me." And then that time when I went to court, I obviously pled guilty because I did have a party in their house. And so I never had anything violent. There was no violence on my record.
Yeah.
All my stuff was just you being a dumb kid and getting in trouble. Stealing your parents' cars, breaking into people's houses as a juvenile because I was a runaway, and this, that, or the other, stuff like that. So what got me sent to YA was that party. So when I went to court, they were like, "This is it. You're getting 18 months in the California Youth Authority. Good luck." And so, and like I said, I don't know what you call it, God, I guess. I went there, and I got put. I went to a place called Fred C. Nellis, which was in Whittier, and I got put on in a cottage that was it was a work cottage. I think they had like all the trades, like electrician, the warehouse, and all of the other ones, and they put me in the electrician trade. I became one of the electricians. All of the blacks that were in that cottage were Crips. It was an all Crip cottage, and back then the Southsiders didn't run together. They hung out together, but they ran with their gangs. So it wasn't all just like all the Mexicans together. It was all gangs, each gang for themselves. And I ran with this other little Cuban kid. And we were the only 2 others in there. And that was it, bro. And I did my little 15 months and went home.
And let me ask you, so what year was this? And do you remember what your CYA number was?
46365 was my CYA number. And no, I do not remember the year, but I know that I got out before I was 18.
Okay.
So let's see. So let me see. So it had to be 85, 84, 85, something like that.
Oh man, so you were in YA, man. What man? Back in the early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't. No, I've heard about it. I've heard about these war stories about these kids here in prison about how they've had it because some of these kids are coming straight from the YA system, and apparently now it's like rocking and rolling. And I'm like, well, it wasn't like that when you know what I mean. But like I said, it was different then. It wasn't. There was the gangs, obviously, you know what I mean. But they weren't running. Like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I just know that I never had any problems. I had one or two fights in YA, but it wasn't like in the movies where you didn't see rape or any of that stuff. I mean, I'm from California. You don't see that kind of stuff in jail here. I don't want to say that's a back east thing because I don't know about anything about back east. But I just know that if they're doing stuff like that, it's because they want to. It's not because they're getting raped. So and I never saw any of that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So so earlier on you mentioned 1992. Exactly. What was so in 1992? You were you living in Cerritos, or had you already moved to Las Vegas?
I had already moved to Las Vegas. I'd probably been in Vegas for, gosh, I don't know. Like I said, as soon as I left the youth authority at 21, I was home for maybe a day. My mom had already had it set up. Actually, before I even moved into one of the apartments that my family owns, they got me an apartment, and it's somebody else's building. I don't know, just a regular, like a, 2,000 unit building called the Racket Club Apartments in Las Vegas. And so they already had the apartment. They already had it set up. It was just a matter of me getting there. And so I had a couple of my friends, we packed up my stuff. We threw it in the back of my boy's truck. And the three of us made a road trip, and we went to Vegas, and we moved me into my apartment. And so, that happened. So if I was 21, so whatever year I turned 21, it would have been that year that I lived in Vegas and didn't come home until 98. So we'd have to do the math. So let me see, that's 18, 86, 73, 98, I think 20, so 89. So there we go. So December of 89, I moved to Las Vegas. Right after I got out, because my birthday's on December the 13th. So I got out, I think the 13th or the 12th or the morning of the 13th. My mom picked me up, and
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
Okay, so she told me, when she picked me up, that she has it all set up. You're going with you're gonna be with the family. You're going to Vegas, and I was like, man, and I was like, but whatever. I can understand where mom was coming from. You know what I mean? She still had a daughter to raise. She still just lost her husband. You know what I mean? She still has all the stuff that she's got to sell off, his Porsche, his boat, his, stuff that she's not going to use. And I'm not, and I'm too immature to step up and run any one of the businesses. So she's going to sell those off as well. So I'm shipped off to Vegas, which is, was the best thing for me because I went to Vegas and, I had some traffic tickets and stuff like that, but I never got in trouble. I didn't, Vegas is trouble enough itself. So I never got any more trouble. But like I said, once I got out of juvenile hall, I never got any more trouble. Now, like I said, I've gotten traffic tickets and gone to court, and I'll have like 12 tickets, or not 12, that's an exaggeration, maybe 5 or 6 tickets, and they have a thing called amnesty once a year in Vegas where you can go to court and get a new court date without being arrested for a warrant. And I'd go.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
And the judge would tell me, so what is it? And I'm like, well, Judge, right at this particular time, I've got more time than money. And he'd be like, well, fine, then 30 days. And then I'd go do like 6 or 4 days or whatever. But it's going to hang up on me, so let me call you right back.
Okay, perfect. That'll work.
All right.
So, previous to us going on the air, he said, he could sit down for an hour. So I think this call coming up, it'll probably be our last one for him. But I should be back at 4:00 today. We're gonna have Jesse and David, coming on for their for their weekly their showtime. Normally we go live with them at around 4:00. 4 o'clock, not on the dot, but around that time. and then I might have somebody else coming on at after 7 p.m. So today I'm gonna do a lot of catching up because I haven't been on for a few weeks now.
This call is now being recorded.
Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Derrick Snowden.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel-Link.
Hello.
All right.
So, you know what? Let me ask you something. So you had mentioned that your dad passed away. Did your dad pass away where you were at home, or were you in CYA when he passed away?
No, I was absolutely at home. I was working at one of his businesses, at his United Charter Coach business, the tour company business, and he just hadn't been feeling well for a couple of days. And so he hadn't, so one day he was like, Derrick, help me down the stairs. Your mom's going to take me to the hospital. And I remember helping him down the stairs, and we took him to the hospital, to La Plata Hospital. And the next thing I know, the UCLA Medical Center is sending a helicopter to pick him up. And he's in UCLA Medical Center in their cancer ward, or because he's got leukemia. And it was out of the blue. My dad died within 15 days of me walking him down helping him down the stairs. It was just sudden. It was fast, and so his body swelled up. I don't know, but no, I was home when my dad died. Yeah, I was there. I buried my dad. We took him to Vegas. He had a 21 gun salute. He was buried with his family in the cemetery out there, and the whole honor guard parade. With the police choppers, motorcycles and so forth, because he was a cop and stuff, a retired cop, and even though it was a California cop, he was raised in Vegas, so they gave him the same honors. But yeah, I was there. To answer your question, I was there with him.
So when when your mom, had you, when she set up that apartment for you to come to Vegas,
yeah.
Did you already have family connections here, family ties, for some type of supporting while you were living in Vegas?
Absolutely. Every one of my mom's family members live in Vegas.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I had mentioned earlier that all of her family, every one of them, my grandmother had 8 kids, all 8 of them graduated from Gorman High School, and so I don't know if you know anything about Vegas, but the Horseshoe Casino is owned by the Binion family. They were, they all went to school with my mom and her sisters and her brothers, and so my family, I had great support. My uncle was the deputy chancellor at UNLV. My aunt was vice president of Nevada Power. My uncle is one of the top guys in probation in the probationary department in Vegas. I've got a couple uncles that were big time casino dealers in Vegas at the top casino. So everybody's doing well. My aunt was the cabinet member for Governor Brown Miller. Governor Brown or Governor Miller. I can't remember his last name in Vegas. So she was the education or jobs cabinet member. I can't remember. So basically, I'm just trying to say that everybody was doing well. So I moved out there into a great support system that that had many arms in it. So there was, if I had any problems, which I didn't, I had many family members that I could turn to, and so things were great. You know what I mean? And like I said, and eventually I ended up moving into one of my family's buildings and stayed there, and I didn't have to pay any rent, obviously, and I guess just lived life, and still wasn't really growing up, but at least I wasn't right up under my mom by her, where she's the only one that would have to deal with me if something arose, So that's that.
But during this time, your family your mom was supporting you, right? She was helping you out. Were you working?
Well, yeah, that's just it. Like I said, my aunt was in charge of the jobs so she could get me jobs like all over. I mean, and my other aunt was, she's on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. She was on the board at a couple other places. So yeah, so anytime I needed a job, I could work. I was a lifeguard at Wet n Wild. Let me see. I was a counselor at the Boys and Girls Club. I've done a few things. You know what I mean? But for the most part, like I said, I was still immature. There's no beaches out there. You know what I mean? They didn't even have a decent wave pool or anything like that. But there's plenty of concrete. So and plenty of places to skate. So I'm still skating. And enjoying my life. I got a car and everything, and I got an apartment, and I'm dating a chick here or two, whatever. But but for the most part, I hadn't really. If you were going to ask me where do you see yourself in 5 years, I had no answer to that question. I'd be like, I don't know. I have no idea. You know what I mean? So I just was immature. I just hadn't grown up yet. But that's where I was living.
Man, so I can definitely relate with that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I can't even answer that question. Right now in my life. But I could definitely relate to that question right there. So I mean, so you're getting by. You're keeping yourself busy. You have a strong, a strong support system with a lot of connections. Where a job doesn't seem like it would be an issue. You're staying busy. What happens in 1992? Because that's a date that sticks out to me. Not only because I saw it in the article. That's 92 is when the 92 riots happened. Rodney King with the trial and the officers getting acquitted and the city of LA just erupting and it's I was in fifth grade back then. Yeah, it was nuts. I remember like the lockdowns where you couldn't be out and about. After the sun went down, it was just crazy. You were living in Vegas, so it was a whole different scene out here. So what happened in '92?
Okay, so in '92, I remember. So I lived in the apartment complex that like I said, it was like a triplex. My family owned the building. And so I come and go and what have you. And I remember coming home and there being a note on my door when I got home, and it was a note from my grandmother saying that your mom is trying to get a hold of you. So I go over to my grandma's house. I don't know. I don't know how many days after the riots has occurred this has happened, but I go over to my grandma's house and she says, your mom was talking. So I call my mom and I'm like, what's up? And she said, I just want to let you know that the neighbors across the street, Mrs. Porras and their housekeeper, were
187
laid to rest.
Yeah,
they were 187. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I said, wow. I said, really? She's like, yes. She's like, she didn't ask if I knew anything about it because that'd be a silly question because I didn't. But she said, so where have you been? And I said, well, I've been here, in Vegas. Where else would I be, And she said, okay, well, I just wanted to let you know what happened, and make sure you were okay. And I'm like, okay, well, I am. So we go from there. So that's where I'm at. Now, what ended up happening here, or excuse me, I'm not in Vegas. What ended up happening in Vegas at the time was this. The Rodney King riots erupted once the officers were acquitted. It erupted here in California. Well, not that day, but the next day, it erupted in Las Vegas. And maybe not the next day, but certainly the day thereafter. It erupted in Vegas. All over Vegas, especially in the predominantly black areas of Vegas, which they call the West Side. And so they quarantined off that entire section of town where you weren't be able to leave in or out by car. Now, the apartment complex that I happened to be living in at that time, owned by my family, was on that side of town. So let me see, I don't want to say that very night, but this is what, like going by what the officers told me of the day of the murder and what I was doing the night that it happened. So the day that it erupted in Vegas was the exact same day that this crime occurred in California. And I know I was in Vegas, and, I was on TV in Vegas because they were filming, guys in Vegas, and I remember being on TV, and I tried to tell my attorneys that, and they contacted the TV stations, but nobody had the footage anymore. And remember, I didn't even get arrested for this crime until 12 years later, after the '92 riots. So all that stuff was, it wasn't digitized back then. So they didn't have any of that footage left over. And my grandmother said, I saw you on TV. She even came to court and said it. My cousins said they saw me on TV, and they even came to court. But no, they just didn't believe it. So anyway, the point of the matter is that I remember, like I said, I skated a lot. So I remember not being able to use my car and leave the west side to go to my friend's house, and because all my friends lived like over kind of by UNLV, and they kind of spread all over Vegas, but the ones that were hanging out at that particular time lived over by Gorman and over by UNLV, and or more by Gorman. But the point of the matter is that I was skating out of the west side, and there were officers at the end of this road, not letting cars in or out. And I remember skating right by them, and I'm looking at them, and they were looking at me, and I just kept going. They didn't stop me. They're like, well, he's just scared, leaving, probably going home or whatever. I mean, he's not looting. And that was that. And I thought to myself, I told my attorneys that at the time, and they, I just don't think anybody really looked into that. I mean, I know for an absolute fact I had to have stood up to those two cops. It was just them and me on this road. And, you know what I mean? On the night that they were guarding people going in and out, and they looked at me. I skated right by them. They looked right at me, and they were like, I looked at them, and I kept going, and they kept standing guard, making sure no cars were coming in and out, or mobs of people weren't, going to be, trying to leave the west side to go loot other places in Vegas or whatever they were doing there. But, and so that's where I was on the night, on the day in question. Now, I believe the DA was trying to say something like, well, look, we're not saying that you didn't live in Vegas. We're saying that you drove down here on the night or the day of or the night before or whatever the case is and then committed the crime and then drove.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
But obviously that's a lie because I didn't have anything to do with it. So, but that's that. I mean, I'm still serving the time for it regardless.
So, you know what? I read...
Anyway,
Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
So I read.
No, I was just listening.
Okay, so I read on I'm not sure if it was the article or one of the articles or the court transcript saying that the officer that was or the detective that was in charge of the investigation, he retired within a month of him getting the handed that case, and after that it seems like that case just ended up on somebody's file cabinet, and it was forgotten for the next 10 years, and then finally they reopened it, and then that's when you were eventually picked up. But so you had mentioned earlier on that you came out on TV and some of your family members had seen you when you when your people spoke about it. Was it like back in '92, or was this after when they picked you up back in what 2002 or 2003 when they picked you up?
No, my grandmother told me a couple of times. She said, "I saw you on TV," and I said, "What did I do?" She said, "You were standing outside of Thrower's Market," and I said, "Just do what?" She said, "Just standing around with a bunch of people," and I said, "Oh yeah, I was there," and that was that's in Las Vegas, and so I knew then. I knew then, but then. Once I was arrested for this, and being tried for it in court, that's when my family members came forward and said, he but we'd already told my attorneys that, and we had told the DA that, and not that the DA would investigate trying to, they were trying to convict me, so why would they be trying to help me? But we had let all the people know that, and we just couldn't find any of that footage, so that certainly would have helped.
And in court, were your family members able to testify on your behalf, saying that they did witness you on TV during that time?
Absolutely, they certainly did.
Okay.
My grandmother's passed away now. I lost her since I've been in here. She was 96 when she passed. That was about 4 years back, maybe 5 years back. But yes, she certainly came to court and testified that she saw me on TV, and certain other family members testified to her telling them that. Back in the day when it happened, because they may not have seen it, but I had a cousin that said she saw me on TV and said, every family member testified to the fact that I had nothing to do with the crime. I even had family members testify to the fact of who did the crime, but we'll get into that a little later. So so it's rough.
All right. So I know earlier on when we spoke, you said you were good
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
to sit down for an hour. So we just hit that hour mark. So if you want, we could leave
Yeah.
off here, and then if you have some availability tomorrow, then we could continue tomorrow on part 2, and we could get
Sure.
into the
Sure,
more more specifics of exactly what transpired.
Sure. Let's pick this up tomorrow. Absolutely. You give me a time, and I'll call, and we'll make it happen.
We could do it at the same time, about 10 o'clock if that works for you, and then we could do it like that.
It certainly does. I will contact you tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we will move on from there.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
So I want to go ahead and thank you, for spending some time with us here, Derrick. And like I say around here, life's like a candle. Once you blow it out, it lights out. And with that, we are out.
All right.
All right, have a good one.